Hey, my beautiful YouTubers, welcome back. We're here for yet another Vanguard Level 4 and under build. This one is specifically for the Demon Hunter. If you were with me on my last video, I did one for the Blood Knight. So if you haven't seen that one and you want to, go on over and check that out in the playlist. This build is based on, of course, survival and damage. We need to get through these tanky bosses, and we're gonna help you get through and win today. So stick around, we are going to get started. Getting into our build, let's start off with the skills section. The first one being Spinning Chakram. Launch a spinning chakram that deals 28,000 plus damage to all enemies in its path and then deals 7,000 plus damage on its return path. You can also reset the cooldown. Next up, we have Knockback Shot. Fire a bolt of shadowy energy that deals 20,000 plus damage and knocks enemies away. Escape. Jab your blade forward at all enemies in front of you, dealing 18,000 plus damage and inflicting 80% reduced movement speed for 4 seconds. Strafe. We have spin rapidly while moving at 70% of normal movement speed, randomly firing at up to 3 enemies, dealing 7,000 plus damage per hit. Using Strafe will slowly consume its energy, which recovers while Strafe is not in use. Moving on to the essences for the gear, we'll start off with the first one being the helmet, Day's Frightful Persona. Knockback shot damage increased by 19%. Over on the chest piece here, we have the Duplicitous Prophetics. Knockback shot now causes your primary attack to also fire a blast of wind that knocks enemies away. Knockback shot damage increased by 18%. Next up, we have on the shoulders the Escalating Violence. This is Escape now lunges forward, damaging and slowing enemies in its path. This damage also is increased by 18%, and now remember, we're no longer tumbling backward, we're now moving forward. Next up on the pants here, we have Secret Safeguard. Escape now also grants a shield absorbing 6,000 plus damage for 5 seconds. This shield effect is increased by 54%. That's amazing. Alright, now we're looking at essences for the weapons. We have the Unrelenting Fuhrer. This is your alternate main hand. This here is going to have strafe duration increased by 39%. Next up, we have Shredder Vein. This is an alternate offhand. Spinning Chakram now orbits your location for several seconds. Spinning Chakram damage increased by 18%. Over on the Turmoil piece, which is an alternate main hand, we have Strafe also launches homing rockets, each dealing 4,000 plus damage to nearby enemies. Damage increased by 90%. And then lastly, we have Fallow Farm, which is the alternate offhand. We have Strafe now summons a spinning shadow that shoots in all directions, dealing damage to nearby enemies by 18%. Alright, so now we're moving on to the green set pieces. If we look at the very left side, we have the Mountebank's Flourish. Each time you take damage, you have a 20% chance to gain a shield that absorbs damage equal to 13% of your maximum life. I've paired that with the Nettled 6-piece. After you gain a shield for the next 6 seconds, every time you are hit, you will counterattack, dealing 40% of your damage to all nearby enemies. Additionally, damage dealt to enemies hit by the counterattack is increased by 16%. To the right of that, I have the Vitu's Urges. Increases the duration of all beneficial effects on you or your party members by 30%. Increases the target's attack speed for 30% for 3 seconds each time you use a skill to grant a beneficial effect to you or your party member. Okay, and then I have a couple of continuous damage gems that I'm using this Banquet of Eyes for. Damage dealt to enemies suffering from your continual damage effects increased by 15%. You could also use something like Shepherd and Bee-Getter because Strafe is a summon, so that would increase Strafe's damage output by 15%. Alright, so now let's get into the charms. Now these are very important. This is what's going to get your team to the finish. Alright, so on a floor 4 Vanguard run, you're going to need something like minimum a 9. I've done one run where it was a 9 and everybody else was 12s. Okay. There is exceptions, and I'm not saying that, but for the most part, rank 10 and up is what's needed to get through the boss. You need to be alive. You have to stay alive. You need to get to the boss, and everyone needs to put in the damage to get that boss down in a certain time period. So if someone's coming into a floor 4 with a rank 6, you will not succeed. So I've run many of these Vanguards, and I'm telling you now, it's something that you really want to make sure that you check people's terms when you go into these raids, because they're no joke. You're just wasting your time. Each raid takes about 5 minutes or plus, so make sure you take the time to check the charms. Don't just click yes. I've seen people come in with rank 1 charms, and let me tell you, it is so tough. Here, I'm leaving you with some gameplay. This is, this boss here, he's not as bad as the one in the first part of my video, but definitely a tough one, okay? So I hope this build helps you out. If you like these videos, please subscribe. You guys have been so amazing so far, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much.